Remember the meltdown against OKC? That reminds you of anything last night?
Right.
Like, because he has had some tough moments, along with some brilliant moments, we shouldn't paper over those. This now, I think, goes to the top of the list. That game against OKC was a second-round Game 5. This is a finals Game 4 with the lead when your co-star is white hot through 3 quarters, and you had plenty of opportunities. I don't know about you guys. Sometimes I watch these games without sound, and so I didn't hear any of the commentary in the first half. I'm sure I missed some brilliance from my guy JVG and some stuff from Mark. But at the end of the first half, I was like, was Chris Paul out there? Like, did he get hurt and I just didn't notice it?
Like
and I was like, no, he was out there, but he was just like letting campaign run the show. And then those it's not just the 2 turnovers in the fourth quarter, it's when and how they happened. Live ball turnovers that lead to layups. The first one that was critical, that was with 3:40 left, they're up 3, he turns it over, Booker then fouls, they don't call it, Giannis gets layup, it's a 1-point game. And then the Suns call timeout, then Chris Paul smokes a layup with Giannis on him, almost hits the bottom of the backboard, and then the turnover with a minute left, or less than a minute left, that leads to another layup, and it doesn't end the game, but all of a sudden it's a 4-point Bucks lead. Brandon, he has 15 turnovers in the last 3 games. He had 13 in the second and third rounds combined. So, yeah, I mean, if he just has a C+ game, the Suns win. And he wasn't able to do it. It's a brutal spot for him.
Just a C+? Yeah,
I know, you're in
just
pain.
A C+, and you're so right. And then you talk about, it really, that's what it comes down to, because Chris Paul can impact the game in so many different ways. He doesn't have to score 25, 35, 40 points to impact the game in a major way. CP3 is one of the ultimate leaders. These guys are embracing him, this generational difference. You know, he's able to talk to them in a way that he's comfortable, right? He doesn't have to change his tone. He doesn't have to change his facial expressions. They get it. They embrace it. He takes care of the ball. He gets everybody involved. So for him to go out there and not only, you know, do what he did last night, turn the ball over, but the last 3 games, like you said, you got to go back to 2012 to see a CP3 meltdown like that as far as being in the playoffs and turning the ball over game after game after game. These last 3 games, I don't know what the hell's happened to CP3, but he needs to find a way to get back to who he was. He doesn't have to do a lot. Go do more when getting your guys involved. You didn't see like really any emotion. There was times where he made a mistake or his guys made a mistake and he just put his hands on his knees like he was tired. There was no emotion. So when you go back to the last series, there's one thing that I said, I was like, man, I would like to see him be more aggressive. You are in this moment right now. You could go down and this could be a part of your legacy. Like, man, you remember that time in the Western Conference Finals when CP3 did this? Now you're in the finals. This is your opportunity to do that. And he's sitting back, Wilds, and he's letting the other guys dictate the outcome of this game, of this series. And I don't like it, man. Something's going on with CP3. They got to find out what's going on and get to the bottom of it. Maybe they know, but what he's been doing the last 3 games is not nice.
Okay, so I have the ultimate confidence in Chris Paul. I root for Chris Paul. I like Chris Paul personally. He's done some stuff on shows that I've been on and produced. So I like Chris Paul. I'm going to root for him. He has said 2 interesting things in these post-game press conferences, Brandon, that I wanted your take on. Because one of them was when Rachel asked him, and I mentioned this earlier in the show, when Rachel asked him, hey, against the Clippers, been up 3-1 before. How do you feel? He's like, I don't want to talk about 3-1. So it felt like, oh, Chris Paul is referencing his past failures. Then in another instance, I think it was in the finals, Malika asks him, hey, how is your hand feeling? He's like, I don't know what you're talking about. And he wasn't trying to be rude. He was just taking any sort of excuses that seemed to be on the front burner and putting them on the back burner. Do you think that's a good strategy moving forward? And I know it's hard to sort of just project, but I'm trying to explore the space. Do you think that once he started off poorly in this game, that there was a little bit of, here we go again? And you talk about having a short memory, and Chris Paul, being a student of the game and being just straight up brilliant, maybe doesn't have a short memory. Maybe he can't have a short memory. So do you think that baggage is perhaps weighing him down?
Well, I think the first thing you said, as far as when they brought up 3-1, he could have articulated himself better. But what he was doing there is just trying to move forward. Like, I'm not going that short-term memory that we talked about. Like, why would I even go back to any negative thought? Like, it's all about positive. It's all about moving forward. And then when you talk about the hand, that's what great players do. Now, I ain't gonna name any names, but there's a few guys that actually, like Big Ben in football. I won't name any basketball games because I don't want to upset anybody on the show. But the great players. They really lean into, like, look, I'm okay. Don't talk about my injuries. Obviously, the guy I'm referring to, he's a phenomenal player, but there's times where he's like, yeah, this ankle is, I'm feeling like this, or my lower back, or my hamstring. No, great players don't want to talk about their injuries. There's no excuse. Yeah. And when you talk about last night, I thought it was excellent what he did. That's what you need to do if you're a leader, if you're a star player. You actually embrace it. When your team wins, you deflect. When you lose, you take it all on. So CP3 sat there and he said, you know what? Those 17 turnovers, 5 of them was on me, and which really, they're all on me because I'm the leader. I'm the point guard. I'm the point guard. So he did exactly what he needed to do. I'm expecting a bounce-back game with him back in Phoenix, Nick.
So first of all, Brandon, you're not going to upset anybody on the show to say that, listen, James Harden milked those nagging nicks and cuts all year. We know it. You know it. I mean, we know who you're talking about. It's fine. He's now recovering in Paris, and he'll be better next year. You won't have to worry about it. So Wild, listen, there's a difference between an excuse and an explanation, and sometimes they do there's a gray area in between. I'm going to give you a different press conference between the two you mentioned. The one after they made the finals, after they beat the Clippers, when Chris Paul said, I have torn ligaments in my wrist. And everyone's like, torn ligaments in your wrist?